the next generation of lifestyle awareness that will transform your life significantly. Hi, welcome to Living Wow Out Loud. I'm your host, Callie Ray, founder of the Living Wow Center and author of the book, 8 Lessons Lupus Taught Me from Surviving to Thriving with Autoimmune Diseases. Living Wow is a lifestyle of choice and intention that was born from the truth that, number one, your body is designed to heal if you give it the environment to do so. Number two, you don't need a label or permission to be the expert in your own body. And number three, more than 80% of all diseases can be prevented or reversed by lifestyle. Unfortunately, this isn't what we're taught in our standard American diet and lifestyle culture. This podcast is a voice of hope and community where you will learn how to live a life of thriving that honors and embraces those three truths. Though you are an individual, you are not alone, and you can thrive living wow too. Why is it that a wellness center that focuses on natural healing with food as medicine spends so much time on mindset? As a speech-language pathologist, I was part of a brain injury rehabilitation team that consisted of physiatrists, neuropsychologists, neurologists, occupational, physical, and recreational therapists, and counselors. Each of us brought in our area of specialty and focus that was critical for the recovery of the patient following a brain injury, whether it was due to trauma, such as a car accident, or an acute condition, such as a stroke, or a degenerative disease, such as cancer or ALS. The role of the specialist varied based on the condition, but generally, the physicians were more consultative, meaning that they would see the patient occasionally to assess their medical condition and whether it was improving or not, and review the intervention plan, including tests, medications, and therapies. The therapists tend to see the patient the most frequently, daily or several times weekly, depending upon the setting and the condition, to reteach the lost behavior. As the SLP, my role was to retrain the brain for cognition, communication, and/or swallowing. I used the analogy of a construction worker rerouting and building new pathways in the brain so that the messages that were still in there could get through by finding an alternative route around the damage. As you can imagine, these patients were always in crisis. One cannot experience a brain injury without it completely upending your life. Very few patients can even recall their hospital stay and rehab experience because the brain's protective mechanism is in survival mode. Despite the incredible insult to the brain, the relatively short window for ideal recovery, and the massive amount of skill and resources that go into this type of intervention, do you know what the best predictor of outcome is? It is universal and incredibly independent of these things. It is mindset or belief. Do each of these specialists, the timing of intervention and the severity of the injury matter? Of course they do. Are caregivers, family, and community important? Of course they are. Do the medications and foods matter? Of course they do. But what is so incredible to witness is that they are not the most important piece. The patient is the most important factor. Remember, we're talking about a brain injury, your hardware, if you will. Your brain is where we think, regulate, initiate, and comprehend, yet somehow the mindset seems to supersede that with an innate override. Here's what I'm talking about. More examples than I can count. In fact, as I reflect, I can't think of an instance where the outcome was correlated to the severity, intervention, and circumstance as much as it was the patient's desire to heal. The belief and tenacity of better days ahead and the fight to regain lost skill is inspiring and creates a momentum of change within the person. But the opposite is also true. And sadly, as I reflect, I can't think of an instance where the outcome was correlated to the severity, intervention, and circumstance as much as it was the patient's fear of not healing. Specifically, the fear of not living the way they used to live or being a burden to those around them. In every instance, recovery was not achieved, and they eventually died, although often after a long and arduous battle, being dependent and limited in function. The point is that the same diagnosis, condition, and circumstances would often yield completely different results depending on the patient's mindset, even with a broken brain. Incredible. So, what does this have to do with wellness? Well, I'm still a construction worker. I'm still helping to build new pathways and reroute. I'm still teaching how to get what has always been in there out. It's just that now it's lifestyle rather than brain damage. I can't help but see the exact same phenomenon in our autoimmune community and the general population that I witnessed with the brain injury population. Despite the crisis, the diagnosis, or the condition, those who have belief and tenacity of better days ahead always seem to be healthier and happier. Likewise, those who have fear of not living the way they used to or being a burden to those around them often end up being limited in experiencing the very loss and burden they're afraid of. Incredibly, the belief or mindset seems to be a greater indicator of outcome than any other factor. Again, it's the individual that determines the outcome. Healing really is an inside job. I'm not going to even pretend that I understand how or why this phenomenon is true. What I am going to do is make sure that it is integrated into everything we do at the Living Wow Center, because having a thriving belief or a mindset is critical. What's super exciting is that it's also possible. Just like all the other aspects of Living Wow, it's awareness, intention, choice, and habit building. Just as I was with my patients who are going through unthinkable crisis and lost recovery from brain injuries, I am committed to providing you my guidance, support, and resources in your journey to thriving. My purpose and the mission of the Living Wow Center is to be that rehab team that brings you the education, practice, and accountability to live your best life despite the obstacles or barriers that may feel overwhelming. To empower you to be the expert in your body and understand how to create an environment to heal and thrive naturally. Understand that mindset, belief, love, energy, faith, and healing are all words that you will hear in courses, programs, or services at the Living Wow Center, intertwined with nutrition and self-care, because it's my experience, both personally and professionally, that they are all coexisting. If we feed our bodies, mind, and spirit well, healing and thriving in your best life is inevitable, not impossible. So, with that said, I invite you to join us for a taste of Living Wow with the Living Wow Supercharge, the 1st to the 10th of each month. The Supercharge program is 10 days of pre planned meals that are 100% delicious, nutritious, and easy peasy. All meals are anti inflammatory, designed with a pre and probiotic features that bring down systemic inflammation, repair and support gut dysbiosis, increase energy and mood. In other words, you are focused on what and how you eat for 10 days, replacing processed foods, sugar, dairy, gluten, alcohol, and fake everything with all things whole, natural, and as local and fresh as you can get it in your area. This is not a vegan menu, but rather a whole foods, plant strong menu. The focus is on the foods and nutritious for sure, but you know there has to be some mindset support as well. Daily affirmations and daily word of scripture are also available to uplift and remind you of your significance, divinity, and worth. Because let's face it, you're awesome. You'll also get recipes and education to help you make intentional choices that empower you to trust your body and begin to heal. It's only 10 short days, but it has the potential to change your life. Pretty bold claims, pretty powerful experience. That's why we call it the Supercharge. I hope you will join the next Living Wow Supercharge group forming now. Hey, if you find value here on the Living Wow Out Loud podcast, will you please share it with your friends and take a minute to rate it on the platform that you're listening on? That's how we live wow out loud. You know that more people need hope and they need the messages shared. And that's how we get recognized among all the noise. This is where you find your voice. Will you please share and subscribe and rate so that we can grow? After my personal transformation from surviving to thriving with autoimmune diseases, I was completely astounded that the experience was not what I expected it to be. Instead of resenting my body and being forever trapped with a legacy of bad genes, as I had believed would be my fate, I looked and felt 20 years younger. I had dropped weight that had plagued me for decades, eliminated chronic pain that no doctor, therapy, or medicine could relieve, and found energy that I hadn't had since I was 16 years old. Because this is not what I expected, and because I wish someone would have told me that there is another way than sad, I wrote the book, 8 Lessons Lupus Taught Me from Surviving to Thriving with Autoimmune Diseases. As I began to share the book and the message of change your story, Living Wow was born. After years of continuing to learn and study how and why lifestyle has such an impact on disease and the world being torn apart by a global pandemic, I can't stand by any longer keeping it to myself. You have to understand that the power is in your hands. The power is in your body. The power is in your lifestyle. The Living Wow Center is a holistic wellness practice that utilizes the framework of the Living Wow lifestyle to identify system failures or maintenance needs. Whether you just need a tune-up or a complete systems overhaul, we support you as an individual to get back out on the journey and living wow. We will work with you to determine levels of function, needs, tools, resources, and or providers that may be best equipped to guide you as you step out of the negative health cycle and turn it into a positive health cycle. The Living Wow Center offers a revolutionary, comprehensive approach to healing, coaching, and support that is necessary in our complex, sad world. Schedule your complimentary consultation today to see how Living Wow can support you. Wow, you just finished another episode of Living Wow Out Loud. I hope you leave today empowered to live your best life and thrive. If you're ready to jump in and learn a little bit more about Living Wow, come check out the Living Wow Center. That's LIVINGWOWCENTER.com. And maybe consider joining our next Living Wow Challenge. We run the 1st to the 10th of every single month. See you soon.